Hi friends, welcome to Crack Get Me. We are back with yet another very important lecture on the current affairs series that we are running in our YouTube channel and in the paid course. So let's begin with the news article from the 24th and 25th November 2021. The first piece of news article is UNESCO ABU Peace Media Award. Okay, so this in the name itself, it's clear that UNESCO has partnered with someone. So we are going to look into it. It's Asia Pacific Broadcasting Union. Okay, it's a the partnership between both have given Peace Media Award 2021 to whom? To Doordarshan. Okay, Prasar Bharati, excellent in quality TV radio show produced by Doordarshan and All India Radio. So you see that a government news channel or a government channel is getting some award at this level shows the quality of content that is available for free of cost and from the government organization. Okay, so the Peace Media Award held at Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. Look, this news at some times will look as if this is related to phase one, but since UNESCO is related to intergovernmental body and that is related to your syllabus in phase two. So that's the reason, this type of news, chances of it in the uh, asking it in the MCQ is very less. Still, there is nothing much to know and explore. Like Doordarshan has won. It was awarded this Peace Media Award 21, and the award ceremony was held at Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. That's fine. Okay, so let's move forward. All India survey on domestic workers. So see, if you are someone who do not understand what's domestic workers, जो घर पे लोग काम करते हैं ना जिसको हम यूजुअली बोलते हैं काम वाली बाई है ना रामों का काम those people are domestic workers. Okay, so what government did was government has launched all India survey on domestic workers. Who will conduct this will be conducted by Labor Bureau is under the Ministry of Labor and Employment. Okay, so this survey will be conducted in 37 states and union territory and 742 districts across the length and breadth of the country. Got it? So let's move to the next news article. Okay, very sorry. Let's see some few more details. The domestic workers survey collects information on the following broad parameters. So what are these parameters? Okay, so there is no point reading in all the parameters because this parameters will never be asked in the objective. Okay, so if you had only objective, this piece of information is of absolutely very minimum use. But here we have descriptive, like I remind you in every lecture. Okay, because why I remind you, see, you may be someone who knows everything, but yes, we do have certain viewers who are there watching this lecture for the first time. Okay, so this is for them. So if at some time you feel that this discussion is becoming boring, please bear, because you were new at some day. There has to be someone to guide. So considering that, I remind in every lecture that the paper has descriptive part in it. So we should be prepare ourselves for descriptive part. And description is something that you cannot learn overnight or in a very short period of time. Okay, like there is a saying, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. There should be a saying in your life if you aim to become an RBI grade B or SEBI grade A officer. NABARD, SEBI is not yet descriptive. Uh, NABARD grade A officer, an answer a day can make you an officer. Okay, an answer a day can look your answer can make your answer look beautiful. So this should be the tagline for you. So that's the reason. Take a screenshot of this slide, go through it once or twice. That would be more than enough. Then let's see few more details. So what are the scope of this survey? Okay. So the scope of a survey is unit of enumeration in villages as per census 2011, urban blocks, and per the latest phase of USF. At all India level, a total number of 12,766 first stage unit, that is 6190 villages and 6576 UFS block will be covered. So why this is being done? To get a first hand data on domestic workers, maybe about their salaries, maybe about their health condition, maybe about their family, maybe about their religion, maybe about their caste and so on. Okay, because see, if you want to from a government perspective, okay, and this discussion is only for the descriptive part. So if you want to fix something, you should know the problem first. Okay, so you can only fix when you know the problem. Okay, then come the solution. Got it? So what government is trying to get is government is trying to get the problem. How? The survey will reveal multiple things about their lifestyle, about their financial incomes, about their savings, about their education level, and so on. Using that, government can prescribe some solution in terms of government scheme, in terms of direct benefit uh, transfer scheme or something like that, and can fix a good number of people in the economy, good number of problem in the economy. With this, let's move to the next one, CSIR Jigyasa program. Okay, so the information given in this slide is too much. Again, it is for you to read it once or twice. That's it. But what is important is the minister concerned, Dr. Jitendra Singh, launched India's first. Since it is India's first, it's important that we know virtual science lab for children under CSIR Jigyasa program. So CSIR partnered with IIT Bombay to develop a virtual lab under CSIR Jigyasa program. Okay. Now, what is Jigyasa? Jigyasa, since its launch in 2017, was successful in connecting nearly 3 lakh students and more than 5,000 teachers with CSIR, and they have benefited directly through Physics CSIR lab. So it's basically, promoting or building capacity in terms of science research. Got it? So let's move forward with the next news article, that is India's Q2 GDP likely to grow 8.1%. So the moment you see this news, this will become irrelevant to you because the GDP data has already come and it is somewhere around 8.4%. So let me cross it out because this news is related to likely, and by the time this lecture is coming out, so I'm not wasting your time here. By the time this lecture will come out, you will already have the latest GDP number in your hand. Okay. So all the data there were related to likely, the predictions. So, so as per the CRISIL, petrol diesel demand grow to have halves due to CNG ethanol EV push. Okay. The demand growth for petrol and diesel is going to be severely impacted due to the push towards CNG, ethanol blending, electric vehicles. According to CRISIL rating, the demand growth in petrol and diesel combined will likely to 1.5% annually this decade compared to 4.9% in the list. Okay, so you see the penetration, even the push from the government is so much high. In the last week, if you are watching our news articles, videos, and following our daily news coverage thoroughly, that you already know that the government is pushing for ethanol production at the first place, then the flex fuel engine. Okay, the government is already in talks with different manufacturer to you know uh, assist them, or government has given suggestions so that they make their engine capable of running in flex fuel, E20 fuel. You remember E20 that we have discussed? E20, ethanol blending 20%. So uh, that's the reason the government is stepping up the production of ethanol. Then diesel consumption will log a combined annual growth CAGR of around 4% between fiscal 2022 and 25, but slow to approximately 2.5% between fiscal 2025 and 2030, given continuous penetration of CNG vehicles. Okay. The domestic demand for petrol, excluding ethanol, okay, is expected to grow merely 2% between financial year 21-22 to 24-25. Why? Because see, uh, I don't know if you are following or not. If you had been uh, in the last few days, I think it was some news conclave where the concerned minister, Shri Nitin Gadkari, talked about the flex fuel. He said that by the end of 2022 or by the starting of 2023, half of the country would be running on the flex fuel. Okay, so this is what his uh, expectation is from the country and from the manufacturers, because ethanol production he has already stepped up. Next is the engine should be capable enough. Okay, so at present, if I am not mistaken, there is only one manufacturer, that is TVS Motors, who had one bike, okay, that can run on flex fuel. Rest, no one can. I mean, yes, they can run, but again, the engine is not capable. The engine will not perform the way it's perform on a normal petrol, E10 petrol. So even the CRISIL production says about it. Okay, so this is about data. Take a screenshot of it, watch it twice and thrice, you will get to know. Let's move to the next one. Cooperative societies can't use bank in their name. So see, RBI has come out with a regulation where it says that banks can only be used when it's actually a bank. Cooperative society cannot use bank in their name. Okay, so now, okay, and also the Reserve Bank of India has said that the insurance cover from DICGC is also not available for deposited placed under with these societies, right? So if anything in future goes wrong, then it is not up to the RBI to look. RBI has already cautioned. Let's move forward with the next one. 94 of the world's 100 most polluted cities are in India, China, and Pakistan. So you see the Asian belt, because India, China, Pakistan are very closely. So only this part of the world is mostly populated. The rest everything is fine, because out of 100, 94 cities are for India, China, and Pakistan. Okay, so maybe we as a country, India, China, and Pakistan is doing something wrong, and we should learn from the other countries who are not in this Asian belt. Let's see. So this is a data by the IQ Air. Okay, and it had determined the level of pollutant by PM25, PM10, ozone, nitrogen, sulfur dioxide, and carbon monoxide. Okay, India had 46 of the world 100 most polluted cities. China 42, Pakistan 6, Bangladesh 4, Indonesia 1, Thailand 1. All these cities had a PM 2.5 air quality ratings of over 50. 9 out of the top 10 most polluted cities are in India. So see, Hotan in China, Xinjiang had the worst average quality in 2020 with 110.2. Okay, so let's talk about data. So this is the top city, top 10 city. So Hotan in China is at number 1. Okay, rest Ghaziabad, Bulandshahr, Bisrat Jabalpur, Jalalpur, Bhiwandi, Noida, Greater Noida, Kanpur, Lucknow, Delhi. So you see, again, this is the almost you can say all these places is near to Pakistan, is near to China. Because if you see the map of India, sorry, I cannot draw it. Okay, I was thinking of drawing, but I cannot draw it. But if you consider this as an India, then all these cities are mostly in this belt. Okay, so this is China, this is Pakistan, right? So let's move forward. PMC Bank's Unity Small Finance Bank merger scheme. So I think 2 months back or 1 month back, we have read a news that the Reserve Bank of India has given a go ahead of PMC takeover. Okay, so now finally the scheme is being draft scheme is being released by the Reserve Bank of India, where Punjab and Maharashtra Cooperative Bank and Delhi-based Unity Small Finance Bank is, you know, going to merge. Whereas Small Finance Bank is a joint venture between Centrum Group and Bharat Pay. Okay, so you already know this. Now, what is according to the draft? It's very important. Okay, and you should know. And again, this is something that you should remember. Depositors of PMC Bank will get their money back over a period of 3 to 10 years. It said the transferee bank Unity will first make the payment of up to rupees 5 lakh or less received from DIC GC to eligible depositors. For the remaining amount, the bank will pay up to rupees 50,000 above the payment already made at the end of 2 years, followed by an amount of up to 1 lakh at the end of 3 years, rupees 3 lakh at the end of 4 years, and rupees 5.5 lakh at the end of 5 years. The RBI said the entire remaining amount will be paid after 10 years. So you look, so there is nothing written about the interest rate, but this is something very painful when a bank of this level fails. Let's move further and let's see what is there. So the draft said that the asset and liability of the PMC bank, including the deposits by Unity. So this small finance bank will take PMC's asset, liabilities, and also the deposit. So this means that the new merged entity will have the liability to pay and repay it back. So you can go through it, and let's move to the next lecture. Life expectancy lower for urban poor, says study. So this study by the Ajim Premji University, collaboration with 17 regional NGO across India. So the report titled Healthcare Equity in Urban Areas. So it says that one third of the people now live in urban areas, with this segment seeing a rapid growth from 18% 1960 to 28.53% 2001 to 34% in 2019. Close to 30% of people living in urban areas are poor, right? The other key findings include a heavy financial burden on the poor and less investment in healthcare by urban local bodies. Got it? And so this data is from a private organization. It's not so important. Still, if you can remember, that's good. If not, then no problem, because this comes from a private organization. And many a times, look, when it comes to data of this level, many intergovernmental body and the Indian body like the Niti Aayog will uh, come out like this data. They are much more important than by a private university. But exam is very uncertain. You never know what is going to be asked. So at least you should know. So if you see this map, it says the life expectancy at Odisha it's 47, okay, at Andhra Pradesh it's 34, Mizoram 39, Manipur 60, and so on. Let's move forward in the lecture. SDG Urban Index and Dashboard. So see Niti Aayog, okay, and so it's a joint collaboration between the Niti Aayog and BMZ, collaborated and focused on driving SDG localization in our city. So SDG 30 goals. So by 2030, everyone should meet this goal, all the countries. Okay, so let's not talk about SDG goals here. So what Niti Aayog is doing, Niti Aayog is going hyper local. Okay, so what is hyper local means? It is so what the intergovernmental body will see it as a nation, but Niti Aayog is trying to fix it at the local level. Sorry. That is how that is why this index is being made, SDX Urban Index and Dashboard. Okay, so this SDX Urban Index and Dashboard ranks 55 urban areas on 77 SDX indicators across 46 targets of the SDG framework. So the framework is almost same. So improving on that framework will eventually, as a nation, we will have a very good progress report at the end of 2030. So that is why Niti Aayog is doing this. So a comprehensive list of 77 indicators covering 46 across 15 SDGs are used in the index. SDG 14, SDG 17 and SDG 15. The indicators are aligned with MOSPI National Indicator Framework, right? So let's move further. So you can go ahead with this data because it's very sure that you cannot remember everything, but if you go once or twice, that is why we have arranged it in a very good manner so that you can remember it point wise. And let's see the top 10 and the top bottom. So these are the states in the top 10. These are the states in the top bottom, right? And these are the names of the urban areas of that following state. With this, we have come to the end of this lecture. We wish you very good luck from Team Tribe Grade B. Thank you.